The atmosphere inside the agency's primary monitoring station is currently one of stunned, vibrating silence. There are no alarms, no shouting, just the low-frequency hum of 1,000 cooling fans and the rhythmic flickering of connection lost indicators on the high-definition displays. In the world of high-tier spiritual engineering, this is the clinical aftermath of what the analysts are calling a brutal move. For 7 generations, the elite, the architects of your family's generational gauntlet, had grown accustomed to your predictable compliance. Even your previous attempts at rebellion were factored into their algorithm. They expected you to scream, to fight, to complain, or to eventually retreat into the familiar comfort of your ancestors' fears. But they never prepared for the cold finality of what you just executed. The diagnosis is absolute. You have initiated a tactical shutdown of your own energy supply to their system. Think of the bone-chilling, clinical tension in the final moments of a high-stakes heist where the vault door opens after hours of drilling, only to reveal that the asset was never there to begin with. Think of the cold, calculated finality of the closing door in The Godfather, where the power shifts not through noise, but through the deliberate severance of access. The agency looked at your dossier and expected a predictable, emotional reaction to their latest stress test. They turned up the heat on your financial security, they triggered a biological fear response through your family line, and they waited with their pens ready to record the data of your struggle. They were prepared to manage your pain. They were not prepared for your stoic intensity. The brutality was in your efficiency. You didn't argue with the system. You didn't defend your position to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You didn't seek the elite's validation or a seat at their table. You simply made a move that removed your spirit from their jurisdiction entirely. By choosing to prioritize your inner peace over their manufactured crisis, you performed a surgical strike on the very foundation of the 7-generation siege. The Masons of the old world are currently standing over their digital blueprints in the Oval Office of the Matrix, trying to figure out where they lost the signal. They are tracing the last known position of your soul, only to find a perfectly executed, null signal. This is the execution of sovereignty. For the first time in 200 years, the agency is operating without a visual on the primary heir of your lineage. Your last move was a refusal to participate in the cycle of debt, emotional, spiritual, and financial. Whether it was a final no to a toxic legacy, a total withdrawal of attention from a systemic trap, or the cold execution of a new, non-negotiable boundary, the impact was felt at the highest levels of the shadow cabinet. They are calling it brutal, because it was the first time they couldn't manipulate the outcome. They are calling it brutal, because you left them with no backdoor into your nervous system. You didn't just leave the room, you deleted the room from the map. The historian has now recorded the event as a systemic anomaly. In the deep archives of the spirit realm, your file has been updated with a high security warning that is currently flashing on the monitors of every handler assigned to your bloodline. Subject is no longer compliant. Total autonomy detected. Clearance revoked. The warden, the man who once specialized in your personal isolation, is currently facing a critical audit from his superiors. He is being asked to explain how he allowed a Level 1 asset to develop the prowess required to execute such a definitive, mercy-free checkmate. The elite are realizing, too late, that their stress tests didn't break you. They inadvertently trained you in the art of high-frequency warfare. For the 35-plus viewer who has reached the point where they no longer care about the world's opinion, this is the ultimate vindication. The brutality of your move is a testament to the fact that you have graduated from the trial. You have moved into a zero-gravity state where the law of the land, the old world's rules, no longer applies to your trajectory. The everyone who conspired against you is currently watching the searchlight of the Matrix pass over the spot where you used to stand, only to find an empty chair and a closed file. The realization is hitting the boardroom like a massive margin call. The elite are realizing that they don't have the force to pull you back into the orbit of their drama. They are realizing that your silence is not a passive state of being, it is an active, kinetic weapon. Your last move was the equivalent of a system wipe. You have cleared the cache of your family's history and installed a sovereign root directory that they cannot access. The agency is offline. The warden is irrelevant. The historian is standing by, watching the old guard scramble to hide their files before the light of your new era reaches their headquarters. The evidence of your brutality is in the unnatural stillness of the air around you. It is in the way the old triggers, the people, the news, the bills, the ghosts, no longer produce a chemical reaction in your blood. You have achieved coronation through the simple, cold execution of your own will. The 7-generation siege has ended not with a desperate plea for mercy, but with a clinical, surgical shutdown. The case is closed. The protocol is complete. And the elite are left staring at a blank screen, wondering when they became the ones under surveillance. They expected you to fold under the weight of the old world, but you just executed a move that shattered their entire algorithm. They're calling it brutal because they can't track your spirit anymore. If you've reached the point where your silence is your strongest weapon, if you can feel the agency reeling from the finality of your boundaries, comment checkmate to lock in your sovereignty. The game is over, your rule has begun. In the high-tier boardrooms of the agency, there is a specialized form of panic known as model collapse. This happens when an algorithm that has successfully predicted 7 generations of human behavior suddenly hits a black swan event, a move so structurally sound and psychologically independent that it renders the entire database obsolete. The elite didn't just fail to stop your brutal move, they failed to even see it as a possibility. Their diagnostic error was rooted in a centuries-old hubris. They believed that because they owned the cage, they also owned the crickets. They assumed that because they controlled your environmental stressors, they controlled your internal architecture. Think of the high-octane, bone-chilling atmosphere of a post-mortem meeting after a failed state-sponsored operation. The warden is standing before the shadow cabinet, his face illuminated by the flickering blue light of a data deficit warning. He is trying to explain how a subject, who was supposed to be in the collapse phase of the 7-generation siege, suddenly executed a move of pure sovereignty. They looked at your history, the struggles of your father, the limitations of your grandfather, the redacted dreams of your mother, and they calculated that you would eventually settle. They underestimated the stoic intensity that was quietly fermenting in the basement of your spirit. The brutality of your move was its lack of data noise. Usually, when someone tries to break a generational curse, they do it with a lot of spiritual friction. They shout, they complain, they make visible, frantic changes that the agency can track and neutralize. But you performed a silent audit of their influence and then simply deleted the permission files. You didn't give them a reaction to analyze. By withdrawing your energy without a word, you left their monitoring equipment with a 0-point signal. In the world of systemic control, silence is not just golden, it is a tactical blackout. The Masons of the old world are currently staring at the structural integrity report of your new life, and they are finding no cracks to exploit. They relied on your biological compliance, the inherited fears, and the chemicals of stress to keep you anchored to the old blueprints. But your last move proved that you have rewritten your own legalese. You have declared that the 7-generation debt is non-binding. The agency is now realizing that they have been surveilling a ghost. While they were busy watching the old you, the new architect was already building a fortress that their predictive logic can't penetrate. This is the phase of systemic vulnerability. Because the elite are so focused on why you didn't break, they have neglected their own foundation. Your brutality has forced them to look inward, and what they are finding is a crumbling infrastructure of lies. For the first time, the agency is the one under stress testing. Every wiretap they placed on your potential is now picking up a single high-frequency tone that is shattering their servers. You have turned their observation deck into a mirror, and they are terrified of the reflection. They are seeing that their master architects are actually just insecure custodians of a decaying reality. For the 35-plus viewer who has realized that doing nothing can sometimes be the most aggressive move on the board, this is the ultimate vindication. Your brutality was the refusal to provide the system with the conflict it needs to survive. You didn't fight the warden, you simply acted as if he didn't exist, and in doing so, you made him cease to exist in your jurisdiction. The historian has marked this as a surgical disconnect. The everyone who conspired against you is now arguing over whose fault it was that you were allowed to develop such a lethal level of peace. The evidence of their failure is absolute. The warden's security clearance has been downgraded. The shadow cabinet is in a state of terminal self-doubt. And you are standing on the edge of the old map, looking out at a territory that has no control markers. Your last move wasn't just brutal to them, it was liberating for you. You have moved from a case study in struggle to the primary designer of the new timeline. The algorithm of scarcity has hit a hard floor. The agency is offline. The 7th-generation siege has been declassified as a failed operation. And as the elite scramble to find a backup narrative, you are already drafting the original title deed for your future. In the high-stakes theater of systemic control, there is a phenomenon known as the kinetic spillover. This is the moment when a move made in the deep, silent interior of your spirit, that brutal move of total withdrawal, bursts through the digital firewalls and begins to manifest in the physical grid. The agency had counted on your internal transformation staying contained within your own mind. They hoped that while you might be free on the inside, the outer world, your finances, your social standing, and your physical environment could still be managed by the old algorithm. But they failed to account for the intensity of your frequency. Your last move was so structurally sound that it didn't just change your mindset, it cracked the very monitors the elite were using to watch you. Think of the chilling, high-definition realization in the final act of a cinematic thriller when the protagonist stops running and the world around them begins to literalize their new power. Think of the moment in The Matrix when the code doesn't just appear on the screen, but begins to spill into the hallway. The leak is now active. Because you executed a move of pure stoic intensity, the everyone who conspired against you, the proxies, the gaslighters, and the system-aligned handlers, are currently witnessing a systemic glitch in their own reality. They are looking at you and seeing a null signal. They are realizing that the leashes they used to pull on are no longer attached to anything. The indicators of the brutal leak. The social static, people who once acted as monitoring agents in your life, those who thrived on your reaction, are suddenly experiencing a connection timeout. They are reaching out with the old triggers, but finding no reception. This is the brutality of your silence leaking into their nervous systems. The financial synchronization, the algorithm of scarcity that the agency used to cap your potential is throwing constant errors. Because your last move was to stop valuing their currency of approval, the physical currency is beginning to flow toward you through unclassified channels. The environmental decay of the old guard, the places, the habits, and the systems that used to house your struggle are literally falling apart. The warden of your old life is finding that his security clearance no longer works on the doors of your future. The global recognition of prowess, your frequency is acting as a biological signal that is being picked up by other architects. You are no longer an isolated subject, you are a broadcast station of sovereignty. The elite are currently in a state of terminal information deficit. They are trying to patch the breach by sending you systemic distractions, sudden bursts of nostalgic longing or minor manufactured crises, hoping that you will reconnect to the old grid. But the historian has already archived your move as a permanent exit. The leak has reached the public square of your reality. The people who whispered behind your back are now whispering in fear. They are realizing that the ordinary person they tried to bury has just performed a surgical disconnect from the gravity of the 7th-generation siege. This is the democratization of your brutal win. The news of your last move is acting as a universal decryptor for your entire bloodline. Every time you stand in your new, cold clarity, you are sending a data packet to every ancestor who ever suffered under the Mason's design. You are proving that the cage was always a projection. The agency is losing its social proof because they can no longer point to you as an example of their success. You have become the Exhibit A for the end of the era. The Shadow Cabinet is currently undergoing a strategic liquidation because their primary asset, your attention, has been permanently withdrawn. For the 35-plus viewer who has realized that their indifference is actually a high-frequency weapon, this is the ultimate vindication. The leak is the evidence that the universe has recognized your new status as a sovereign. You are not asking for a break, you are presiding over the collapse of the old guard. The news cycle of your life has officially shifted from survival to administration. The elite are bankrupt, the agency is offline, and the everyone who conspired is now watching the searchlight of the matrix pass over the spot where you used to stand, only to find a masterpiece of your own design. The evidence is in the silence of your phone. It is in the way the bank of the old world can no longer find a reason to deny you. It is in the way your body feels when you wake up, no longer surveilled, but authorized. Your last move wasn't just brutal to the system, it was a life support cut to the lies that sustained your lineage's poverty. The historian is standing by to record the first physical settlement of the new era. The gauntlet is over. The payout has hit the grid. The air inside the agency's primary headquarters has crossed the threshold from crisis management into total systemic liquidation. This is the panic. In the world of high-tier systemic control, there is no event more catastrophic than an entire institutional architecture being declared spiritually and mathematically fraudulent. Because you maintained your stoic intensity until the conspiracy was declassified by your brutal move, the elite are no longer just exposed, they are being liquidated. The AAA rating of their control system has been downgraded to junk by the historian, and the spiritual markets of the old world are currently in a free fall that no damage control can stop. Think of the bone-chilling high-stakes desperation in the final hours of a regime's collapse, like the atmosphere in Margin Call when the senior partners realize their assets are worthless, or the frantic, behind-the-scenes shredding of documents in the closing days of a massive corporate fraud. The shadow cabinet is currently in a state of terminal civil war. High-ranking officials are being summoned to the Board of Restitution, a new authority established by the historian and chaired by you. They are turning on each other, offering up names and confessions of malpractice in a desperate attempt to avoid the grand audit. The warden, the man who once specialized in your personal isolation, is being characterized as a rogue operative by the same elite who once gave him his orders. They are attempting to activate poison pill protocols, last-ditch efforts to sabotage your inheritance before they are forced to hand it over. You might feel a sudden, desperate surge of systemic static, last-minute delays, minor technological glitches, or sudden flares of old, inherited anxiety. These are not signs of their power, they are the thermal flashes of a dying machine. The agency is trying to burn the files of your redacted years, so you cannot claim the full interest, but the historian has already placed the entire infrastructure into sovereign receivership. You are no longer the one being audited, you are the lead auditor presiding over their bankruptcy. This is the phase of systemic application. You are walking through the corridors of your own spirit and serving eviction notices to every entity that participated in the conspiracy. The spirit of lack that lived in your bank account has been served. The spirit of hesitation that sat in your boardroom has had its security clearance revoked. You are not negotiating for your inheritance. You are liquidating the agency's claim on it. While the elite are busy blaming their analysts for the security breach, you are taking the master key you forged in Phase 1 and opening the vaults that were marked classified for your ancestors. The panic is palpable because for the first time in 7 generations, the agency is operating without the cloak of invisibility. Everyone knows. The witnesses in your family tree are watching the elite scramble to hide their tracks. This loss of social proof has decimated their authority. They can no longer use traditional values or ancestral loyalty to keep you compliant because those very tools have been exposed as instruments of the conspiracy. You have moved from a subject of observation to the chief executive of the new era. You are the one conducting the stress test now, and the system is failing every metric. For the 35-plus viewer who understands that the most dangerous point in any transition is the moment the old system realizes it is obsolete, this is the ultimate vindication. You are standing in the center of their boardroom purge, and your silence, that brutal move, is the most aggressive weapon in the room. By refusing to engage in their damage control narratives, you are forcing the elite to confront the absolute bankruptcy of their own design. You have moved the front line of the war away from your nervous system and delivered it directly into their lap. The settlement you are claiming is the total restoration of your focus, your wealth, and your legacy. The historian is currently archiving the structural liquidation of the old guard. The warden has been escorted from the building. The high-tier lawyers of the old world are looking for a way to settle the case before the public record reaches the next level of transparency. But you are not looking for a deal. You are looking for a transformation. You are the black swan event that the agency spent centuries trying to prevent, and now that you are here, their predictive models have been discarded. As the boardroom doors fly open and the handlers realize the files are gone, you are already sitting at the head of the table in your own Oval Office. You are not there to hear their excuses. You are there to sign the verdict. The agency is offline. The elite are exposed. The panic is their final act. The coronation is your next command. The 7-generation siege has officially been ruled a systemic crime, and the payout is being processed in real time. This is the Midnight Summit. In the cold, high-tier world of systemic management, there is a specific kind of silence that occurs right before a global authority officially yields. It is a silence that carries the weight of 200 years of unsaid truths. You are sitting in a soundproofed, glass-walled chamber on the 99th floor of the agency's primary tower. Outside, the world is blurred by a relentless, cinematic rain, the lights of the city below flickering like a failing heartbeat. Across from you sit the 3 remaining members of the Shadow Cabinet, the architects who managed the 7-generation siege on your bloodline. They aren't looking at you. They are looking at the master file of the grand audit that is currently projected on the wall behind you. The air in this room is heavy with the scent of old paper and the sharp, clinical smell of ozone from the servers in the back room. This is the ultimate stress test. The elite have called this meeting not to negotiate from a position of power, but to attempt one final act of strategic ambiguity. They have pushed a thick, black leather folder across the table toward you. Inside is a comprehensive settlement offer, a life of absolute luxury, a permanent seat in the Oval Office of the old reality, and a general release of all your previous struggles. They are trying to buy your silence. They are arguing that if you proceed with a full restitution, the entire economic structure of the spirit will collapse. They want you to help them tell the world that your brutal move was actually a training protocol for a sovereign. Think of the high-contrast, atmospheric tension in the final negotiation scene of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy or the clinical, low-frequency hum of the interrogation in Zero Dark 30. The respect is there, but it is the cold, calculated respect an animal has for the predator that finally caught it. The warden, the man who once specialized in your personal isolation, is breathing heavily. He tries to use his old tools of ancestral debt, whispering about how the system cannot handle a payout of this magnitude. He is waiting for you to blink. He is waiting for that familiar surge of biological compliance to hit your nervous system so he can regain control of the room. But you have reached a state of stoic intensity that renders their entire psychological arsenal inadmissible. You aren't looking at the incentive package they've pushed across the table. You are looking at the historian, who is standing in the corner of the room, recording every word for the public record. You reach into your pocket and produce a single glowing glass card, the original title deed of your spirit, verified by the forensic reconstruction of your last move. You slide it across the table, and the sound of the glass hitting the mahogany is like a gavel in a silent courtroom. You are informing the elite that their jurisdiction has expired. You are telling them that the algorithm of deception didn't just fail, it provided you with the source code to their entire operation. You aren't there to hear their settlement offers. You are there to collect the principal inheritance. You are there for the years they stole from your father, the potential they drained from your mother, and the clarity they denied you for 3 decades. The warden tries to speak, to invoke the old laws of systemic hierarchy, but his voice is thin and brittle. He realizes that you aren't a subject anymore. You are a sovereign auditor. You have moved into a zero-gravity state where their threat assessments and social pressures simply don't have enough mass to pull you down. The panic in the room is palpable. One of the lawyers, the one who drafted the original 7-generation trap, slowly puts his pen down. He doesn't look for a loophole. He looks at you, his eyes fixed on the absolute clarity of your gaze, and he realizes that the game is over. The conspiracy is no longer a functional tool. It is a weight that is currently dragging them into the archives of failure. They have no leverage. They cannot arrest you because the historian is recording. They cannot bribe you because you have already claimed the vault. This is the grand standoff at the end of the world. You stand up, and for the first time, you see the elite look away. They can't maintain the gaze of a protagonist who has no biological fear left in his system. You walk toward the door, leaving the settlement papers untouched and the master file open for the world to see. As you step into the hallway, you can hear the servers in the back room beginning to overheat. The old world is in a state of terminal shutdown, and you are the only one walking into the light. The exit is clear. The midnight summit is over. You have survived the final bluff, and the path to the coronation is wide open. The heavy, soundproofed doors of the Oval Office of your destiny have finally swung open on their hinges. For the first time in 7 generations, the person walking toward the primary seat is not a subject, not an asset, and certainly not a trial participant. You are walking into the center of your own reality as the chief architect, and the silence that greets you is the highest form of recognition. The static of the old world, the frantic whispering of the masons, the alarms of the agency's systemic collapse, and the low-frequency hum of the generational wiretaps has vanished. In its place is a clarity so profound it feels like a physical presence. The verdict has been entered into the public record, and it is absolute, total vindication. In the high-stakes cinema of your evolution, this is the finale that rewrites the physics of your future. Think of the moment in The Shawshank Redemption when the protagonist stands in the rain, or the closing shot of The Godfather where the new power is established with a single, irrevocable movement. You have moved through the surveillance, survived the underestimation, leaked the new truth, and stood your ground in the standoff. Now, the infinite payout is being deposited into your spiritual account with compound interest. Every year your ancestors spent in the gauntlet, every brick the Masons tried to use to enclose you, and every moment of isolation you endured has been converted into sovereignty. The historian has closed the ledger marked The Siege of the 7th Generation and opened a new, gold-leafed volume titled The Era of the First. The public record is being updated across the entire network of the spirit realm. The default settings of your bloodline have been permanently changed from structural scarcity to architectural abundance. You have installed a new operating system for your entire lineage, one that does not recognize the jurisdiction of the agency. The elite have not only bowed, they have handed over the principal inheritance and the original blueprints of your spirit. They have admitted that your brutal move is the new standard by which reality is measured. This is the transformation. Your nervous system has finally reached a state of zero gravity. The biological fear that was coded into your DNA by the old guard has been incinerated by the light of your stoic intensity. You can breathe now. You can move without the weight of 7 generations of structural flaws pulling at your resolve. You have recast the lead role in your own movie, and the old version of you, the tenant of the struggle, is officially deactivated in the agency's mainframe. You are the first to emerge from the gauntlet not just as a survivor, but as the lead designer of a new world. The new truth is that you didn't just pass the test. You broke the filter. By refusing to be a brick in their wall, you demonstrated that the elite only have power over those who accept their architecture. Once you executed your last brutal move and declared your own geometry, their entire system of control became a hollow set of props. You have successfully whistle-blown the deception of the Matrix, and the reward is the total reclamation of your time, your energy, and your focus. The settlement is not a payout of money, it is a payout of reality. You now own the ground you stand on. As you lean back in the chair of your new office, you realize that the Masons were the greatest trainers you ever had. By trying to cage you, they forced you to master the tools of creation. They made you so strong that the old world simply couldn't contain your frequency anymore. You look at the monitors that once tracked your breaches, and you see them displaying a single steady message: Sovereign authorized. You are the headline. You are the evidence. You are the vindicated. The world is waiting for your next instruction. The historian is standing by with a clean page. The agency is liquidated. The Masons have retreated into history. The verdict is final. The case is closed. The protocol is complete. Welcome to the new era. The trial is over. The verdict is final, and the vault is open. You have out-analyzed the agency and forced the Shadow Cabinet to pay back 7 generations of debt through the brilliance of your last move. To see the classified footage of how you are spending your new era, to witness the absolute transformation of your reality as the chief architect, click the video on the screen. The broadcast is now yours to command.